realize that you are born fine, and then you define who you are, and to be happy, you refine yourself over and over again just to be fine once more. You can trust me. I'm a good witch. A witch is someone who finds their magic in solitude. You can trust me. I'm a good witch. Do you realize that you are the average of the 5 people you spend time with? You can do anything, but not everything. You can trust me. I'm a good witch.
Welcome back to another episode of Anthony Meets. It is the month of Halloween, so you can tell by my costume, I'm getting into the flavour of it all. And you can't think about this time of year really without thinking about witches. Now, if you're anything like me, you know that witch doesn't necessarily mean bad things or people flying on brooms or anything like that. But in actual fact, if you've watched Wizard of Oz, or indeed if you have been lucky enough to be blessed by meeting one in your real life, then you know there are plenty of good witches out there. And I'm being joined today by the good witch, a good witch, none other than the lovely Shelley Rogers Johnson. Shelley, how the devil are you?
I'm great, but how the devil am I? That is quite an introduction. You surprised me.
It's Halloween after all, right?
You know what I love about the devil? In the tarot deck, there is a devil card. And the devil card means sex, drugs, and rock and roll. A great place
sign me up, honey.
I know. It's a great place to visit. But I don't want to live there.
Shelley, I mean, obviously, I'm going to talk a bit about your life and everything that you do at the moment. But I came across you via Instagram, and you are, I think what's fair to say, you are an internet sensation, actually, really. And you've been making videos and sharing your wisdoms, and you do lives where you give people quick reads, and then obviously you do more personal reads as well. But I came across you by your videos, the videos that have been shared, and I've been sharing them onto my page. And what attracted me to you, it wasn't so much about, you know, the mediumship or the tarot or any of the rest. It's the wisdom that just seems to fall from you. Is this something that you hear a lot?
Well, I'm a practice therapist. Okay. I'm an occupational therapist. So I have worked with people my entire life. And I've helped people, you know, what brain damage, strokes can cause bodies not to work. Yeah. I learned how or it was my job to help them learn how to get dressed again, how to cook meals again, how to be who they are in spite of their limitations physically. And if you ever want to learn wisdom, hang out with those people. They taught me so much. They taught me courage. They taught me how to face that fear, how to step into the unknown with every step that you take. And that's where wisdom comes from, is regardless of what you think, it's being able to face those fears and step into it and find out that this is a kind universe. And the only thing real in it is love and loving relationships. And the more chances you take, the more you learn that this is a safe place to learn and grow. So
so
that's where my wisdom comes from.
There's exactly what I was talking about. It's just amazing. Everything that you say, I think, is really actually complex and profound, but you say it so sort of simply in a way that everybody can understand. And, you know, I've joined some of your lives on Instagram, and you have people literally all over the world joining you on these lives, all to, you know, to interact with you. And I think to myself, especially, you know, when I'm watching what's happening in the world at the minute, and we're not going to get into a political discussion, that wouldn't be the right thing to do. But when I look at your ability to communicate such a positive message so far around the world to so many different types of people, I kind of wonder, why do people choose to do it harder, the hard way? You know, why don't they just follow suit?
Well, I think people don't spend time with themselves. And I think that people, their self-talk is so critical. So that's why I love the tarot, because each one of the cards is a balanced relationship, and it helps you learn how to learn and how to find balance within yourself. I read tarot in the present and in positive terms, so that my words create. What you put out there is what you get back.
Yeah.
If you sit and gossip about people are going to sit and gossip about you.
Absolutely.
It just happens that way. If you praise and compliment other people, that's the way they're going to treat you. And so what we put out in this universe is what we get back. And I always want to put out creative, loving, kind feelings. You can interpret tarot in many ways. Mine is always looking for the balance and always looking for ways to learn and grow, because that's our path. That's what we're here for. We're not here to be ashamed of ourselves. We're here to blossom. You know, the flowers in the field do not look to each other to glow. They look up towards the sun, that light that they know is their truth, and they follow the sun through the day. Instead of looking at the people they're in the field with, they're attuned to the big picture. And that's the way I try to do it. The other thing is, even yesterday, that political conversation came into when I was reading tarot.
Right.
And I said, this is the place where we find respite. Because if we want peace, we have to be peace.
Yeah.
If we want aggravation, just be aggravated. You'll get it right back.
Yeah. Yeah, I have no problem. I mean, I'm a lawyer, so I can bring as much aggravation as anybody would like, but hopefully I'd rather break bread with a gin and tonic, you know?
But there's times where you can bring that friction for a growth lesson.
Yeah.
For somebody to see that their actions infringe on my rights.
Yeah.
And that's a learning situation. There's, if what's true, right, and good is what comes to the surface.
Yeah.
And there's ways that you can get in and just stir it up to, because you're stirred up.
Yeah.
We all have to be what we want to see in this world.
I love that. And it's something actually, so I do a bit of lecturing as well. And that's something actually, one of the things that I've said to students before, don't be moaning about the stuff that's happening in the world. Be the change. You are the change. You're coming out of here. You're coming out of here as graduates. You've got this piece of information that says you're clever and it says you're powerful. Go do stuff with it. Make it. You are the change. And I don't think everybody really realizes how empowered they are to be the change, so to speak.
That's my mission.
Yeah.
That's why I teach people to look at what they're saying to themselves.
Yeah.
That's why I really want people to accept who they are, good and bad, because with acceptance, you can do self-assessment. And that is taking stock of where you're at and learning and growing to grow towards what you want to be. Yeah. Making an assessment allows you a trajectory, a direction. And so by getting rid of the guilt and the shame and being able to look at the way you show up every day and how you treat yourself is the only way that we learn and grow is through enjoying, relaxing, learning, and growing. We have to enjoy ourselves first before we can enjoy others. We have to relax. And then we learn and grow in that sequence.
I love it. I mean, I follow like different life coaches and motivational people. And actually, if you boil down everything, there's the advice. If you want to be successful, not just in business, but in your relationships, your friendship, your family, your life, there's the answer, right?
Yeah. That's when you accept yourself, you can learn. You can, once you accept it, then you can change it. If you're hiding from it unconsciously, then you're acting out. But once one of the things for me was my white skin. I could never accept my white skin.
Right.
People didn't understand. You go in the sun, you get sunburned.
Yeah.
I felt robbed. I felt like I grew up at the beach. I couldn't go out in the sun.
Right.
And it wasn't until I accepted that and started scuba diving, where you can go out and have adventures, and it doesn't matter how white your skin is. Until I accepted who I was, I couldn't devise the right way for me to get out and play.
And that's actually probably quite accidental, but quite metaphoric. I mean, the title of the magazine is Queer 40. So a lot of people who will be watching this will have come through a transition period in their life. And not everybody, but a lot of them. And certainly I can say my own self, when coming to terms with being gay, you have that tumultuous period in your life where you're trying to be anything other than what you were designed to be, right? So you're trying to look straight, you're trying to be straight heterosexual, or masculine or feminine or whatever it is that you're dealing with,
that you're supposed to be, that society is telling you to be, instead of speaking your truth. And
go.
Well, that's the same stuff you have to get people to accept it once they're disabled, and they weren't disabled before. They have to accept who they are to be able to build a life that works for them. I don't know if this is appropriate, and you might want to cut it out later.
Okay.
But there was a point in my life where I desperately wanted to be a boy.
Yeah.
Boys got to go out and do whatever they wanted. They didn't have to have clothes on. They could go out, take their shirts off, and march through the desert. I so desperately wanted to be a boy. But I got shame for being a girl and showing my breasts. And what I said is, well, if I'm stuck being a girl this time, I'm going to rock it. And I've had to really go through and identify what is in me that is male and I can honor, and what is in me that is female and it's not part of my truth. You know, I've been
Yeah.
a woman self-employed my whole life. How balanced is that? You know, I've created more businesses and done business in the way I've wanted to do. And that's not a very feminine trait.
Yeah.
You know, I've scuba dived. I've rode motorcycles through the Utah desert. I've lived my passion, and that's not very feminine. But by accepting that I'm in this body this time, I can be both those male yang characteristics and this female in this body.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if that makes sense.
It makes
But
perfect sense, actually. It makes perfect sense. I actually had this conversation quite recently with my dad, who, by the way, I call him Yoda. Okay. So I make no decisions unless I've spoken to my dad, right? And we were talking about you know, gay men and the different types of gay men that there is. And, you know, some are really, really camp, really, really feminine, some are really, really masculine. And then there's like a whole rainbow of spectrum in between. And he was saying to me, well, how come some are really camp or really feminine and some aren't? And we talked about nature and nurture and all the different kind of conversations that really come up in that debate. And actually, both of us got to the end of the conversation and went, well, actually, and I'm not talking about gender. I'm not talking about change of gender. That's a completely different thing. But when it comes to energies and personalities and how we present socially and those different sorts of things, why is there a male and female way to be? I mean, when you think back to the Shakespearean days, when you think back, there are so many different parts of history where that, in terms of presentation, that there wasn't a gender style that would be recognizable today. I mean, you know, I'm a barrister, I wear a wig, but in those days they wore makeup and big fancy clothes, and which nowadays would be considered massively feminine. So those, I think those concepts of male and female, not, as I say, not about gender, that's different, but in terms of social concepts, if that's right, I think bollocks. Right.
Right. You know, that's when I got out of school in 1976, women did not go into private practice.
Sure.
And I went into private practice because I couldn't write in a chart. I can't spell. I have a problem with writing, and there were no computers back then. So, you know, rather than letting my handicap stop me, I stepped into the role of running a business. And back in '76, we just started getting out of the house.
Yeah.
You know, so we all have to express to fit within our world. We have to express both the male and the female part of us, because we have to be able to express both the internal and the external part of us.
Yeah.
We're living in a dual world. And so we have to have skills on both sides of the pendulum.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, there are times throughout my day when I would be, so actually, I'll use a way of explaining this. Actually, I read a book called The Gods in Every Man. And The Gods in Every Man is a book which tells you all about the different sort of elements of your personality, but uses the Greek gods as ways to identify all of your different traits. So you can summon Zeus, or sometimes you will find yourself being Hermes or whoever without realizing, but you might want to change it, flipping back and forth. But throughout my day,
that's what the tarot is.
Sorry?
That's exactly what tarot cards are.
Right, okay.
Yeah, they're all associated with the god. They're all associated with character traits, growth traits that we go through.
Yes, of course they are. Yes.
And every one of them are about balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's
Just
exactly
like,
it. That's, that's what I was saying. Throughout the day, I invoke different personalities. Actually, I mean, there are people literally all day, every day, throughout the day. Different people would know very different versions of me, depending on
right.
what way we're interacting that day. So it's really interesting. But Shelley,
That's the
if
same.
you don't mind me asking, you're a cancer survivor.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you want to know?
well,
Want to see my,
so I had a nephew who died of cancer, so I understand cancer and all that sort of stuff. But I think as an adult, to have survived it, to have got that close to the end, if you like, and you being so spiritual and whatnot, anyhow, did that experience bring you closer to spirituality? Did it make you question your spirituality? What was it like for you?
oh, I've never questioned my spirituality. I've been a witness to miracles my whole life. What I always questioned, I started getting stoned at 14, and we were in front of the church. So I go in and I never believed a word they were saying. And I
Yeah,
was raised Mormon,
yeah,
and so I've never been part of that religious community. I've always known that this is a kind universe, and I've always created that.
hmm,
My grandmother was a Christian Science practitioner, so she knows how to use her word to create her reality.
okay,
I studied religious science, which is looking at all of the religions and using the truth. And I learned about religious science when I had cancer.
yeah,
So I was a therapist until I was 47. I got cancer. I could not go back to my work. So I couldn't work with patients anymore. So I became trained as a practitioner, like my grandmother was, which is using your words to create your reality. And when you use your words to create your reality, there's a 5-step process.
okay,
Number one, we recognize that spirit is that which creates in the world. And we unify with that spirit because I have spirit in me. I am not all of spirit. There's a greater world out there than me, but it's in me. I am part of that, and I have the potential for creativity. So I realize that which I want in my world, and I speak in present tense, and I speak in positive realms to
yeah,
create my world. Then I give thanks for it already happening,
yeah,
that it's already here. And then I release my word into that creative presence so that I know that it's no longer in my hands, it's in the universe. And that's what comes back to me. That's how I learned that my health is is up to me. That's how I learned that my well-being and my comfortability is my job. It's not somebody out there giving me a medicine to fix it. It's it's me knowing that I'm whole, perfect, and complete. It's me knowing that I had an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old to survive for. And I lived my life on a daily presence with that daily presence that allowed me to heal and grow and be the mom that they needed to see, you know?
wow.
Does that make
Can I vote you for
sense?
president?
That my daughter said, a good witch for president. I laughed at her. I said, I have important work to do. That's getting caught up in the outside.
Yeah,
My job is to teach people how to have a relationship with their inside and then how to fit within society
yeah, yeah.
and to be responsible for your own behavior,
Isn't that
to
kind
be
of what the presidents are supposed to do as well, though? Isn't that part of
Absolutely.
their job?
Absolutely. And
We won't go there.
and just like truth and what's true, right, and good, it takes a while, but it comes to the surface.
Yeah, it does actually, and I do believe that all you got to do is wait, right? I think that was one of your videos
Yeah,
actually. Um,
yeah.
and talking about the videos then, so you know, you talked about back in 76 leaving school. We didn't have Instagram and Facebook, all that back then.
We didn't have private computers,
No, I know. How are you
personal
find
computers. No.
no? How are you finding the world of the World Wide Web? Are you enjoying it, or is it frustrating, or what's your thoughts about the internet?
Well, my algorithm is always positive. I don't get stuff that's not positive. So my experience with the internet is if I see somebody giving power to negativity, I don't engage with it. I go on to positivity. I worry about the algorithm that just feeds you what you want.
Yeah,
And so I make sure, just like my brain, that I get fed that which fulfills me instead of taking me down some direction of deception and misconception and untruths.
yeah. Um, I think what you said there actually about algorithms and only giving you what you want. I think that's probably one of the world's most recent evils, really.
Yeah.
And you know, it's creating these echo chambers for all sorts of opinions and things.
But we're not powerless over that.
Yeah,
People
but you've got to
say
be
that
clever
they're
enough to you've got to be clever enough to invoke your power, right? So some
right.
people don't know that they're powerful enough to change that.
That's my purpose on the
Yeah,
internet. That's my purpose. My purpose is to raise the level of cumulative suffering. You can choose that this is a kind universe, or you can choose that this is not. And until you practice, evoking that, until you practice saying, I'm going to be part of the kindness of this universe and not play with the negative part. I had to come to a realization that I'm not comfortable after I watched thriller movies, even though I know it's all a fake.
right.
It didn't load into my brain as a comfortable experience. So I've had to edit that.
Yeah,
But it's only by me seeing it, knowing that that's not making me comfortable, and making the decision that my comfort is more important than my entertainment.
yeah.
Just like with food, I don't use food as entertainment, but that's
Yeah, I just got
because
to slide
I'm
off
in.
camera now. I definitely use for it. Well,
But
as
what
reward is
is,
entertainment, whatever.
yeah, my entertainment, my place for me to play is in figurative sculpture.
Yeah,
And I make a point of sculpting one day a week. And then I have to eliminate all of that which does not feed me. So I get rid of everything that doesn't allow me to feel good about myself and to go into my space of play. But that takes self discipline. And I don't think people learn self discipline.
yeah. Yeah, we do actually. Yeah, we're not actually taught it really because we're taught if you're good, you can have some candy. If you're good, you can have an ice cream. If you do as I tell you, if you let me control you, da 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 da. Da. We're taught that
But
from a very young age, aren't we?
I
Um,
watched my mother go to college.
yeah,
My father nearly died when I was 3 years old.
mm,
And so children fail to listen to us, but they do not fail to imitate us.
right.
And what's important is that we show our children how to live. It's not what we say, it's what we do.
Yeah.
And what we do, what we say is what they'll download to themselves, and that'll be their self-talk in the future.
Yeah.
But what we do is live by example, and then they learn self-discipline and self-respect.
Yeah. I love you. I'm just fawning over here. But you mentioned there about sculpting, and that creation and recreation and what you're doing with the tarot and the internet. It kind of all golden threads, really, doesn't it?
Right. And it takes me back to when I was trained as a spiritual practitioner in the Church of Religious Science before they changed the name to Spiritual Living Centers.
Yeah.
I got kicked out of the Mormon church. I got kicked out of the Christian Science church, and I'm proud to say I got kicked out as a practitioner. And so that's where my internet presence come from, because I have a great life. I love my life. I love people. I love seeing miracles. I love being available for people by tarot. It fills me up. And I've created this life where I don't have to fit within the rules of society. I have to live to my own personal truth.
Yeah.
You know, and my personal truth is, if I want to feel good, I help others. You know, my latest thing is, if you buy a badge from me on the internet, you're contributing to the delinquency of an elder, because I love giving stuff away. You know?
I saw, actually, I mean, I'm laughing, but actually I saw when people buy the badges, you're buying a prosthetic leg for somebody, you're helping homeless people.
In Guadalajara, because they can't take care of themselves down there. They don't have work permits. So if they're coming from South America and they can't get across the southern border, they stay in Mexico because they can't live in their country.
Sure.
So we go down and help them. We help fund the homeless shelters, and we give them a way to work, to braid. We make braids, which is it's kumihimo. It's an ancient technique of meditation.
Okay.
The Buddhist monks did it to honor Buddha. They would decorate and adorn the Buddha statue with kumihimo braids. Well, I figured out how to put it on a chillum so you don't drop your chillums and break them. And I figured out how to do that as I'm driving from one hospital to the other, treating patients. How do I stay in the moment? How do I not worry about what happened or what's going to happen? How do I stay present? And it's been through kumihimo and through creative projects.
Yeah.
If you're creating something, you're not thinking about how bad it was or how afraid you are of where you're going. It is staying in the moment and making decisions about the process and the project. And this is how I keep my sanity.
Can
you listen
send me
to the
about 10
news.
cases of that?
Well, when we do retreats, that's what I teach, is how to braid.
Okay, so you do retreats then?
Yeah, we do retreats. We do retreats that include kumihimo braiding, belly dancing, yoga, and chakra meditations.
Oh, I love all of it, but the belly dancing, I'm afraid. I do from the neck up.
See, belly dancing, the way our nervous system feeds itself. Our nervous system does not live on blood. If blood touches nervous tissue, it kills it.
Okay.
So what happens is, the more we move our spine, the more we pump the nervous system with food and nutrients and electrical impulses to regulate it. So the more we move our spine back and forth, the healthier our nervous system is. That's why
Oh.
walking helps us, because we're pumping our nerves. That's why swimming helps so much, because we're pumping our nerves. And anytime you do something where your nervous system is being moved, you're making it healthier.
I didn't know that.
Belly dancing is a great way to make your body feel better.
Okay.
And I promise the universe that I belly dance in private. That's where I love me.
Yeah.
And I do it with other women, but I will not do it in a show. I'm sorry. I'm not a public belly dancer.
I don't think anybody would thank me for doing it, to be honest. To be perfectly honest.
But some of the best belly dancers are men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think they're probably a little bit cuter, a little bit flatter, a little bit everything where it should be. But you talk about the journey of life, really, and kind of where it begins with tarot. And tell me a bit more about that.
Well, I'll show you. The tarot deck is divided into 2 decks. It's divided into the higher arcana and the lower arcana.
Yeah.
The higher arcana is all about character. The lower arcana is that which is done on a day-to-day.
Okay.
So here is my chart of the higher arcana. There's 23 cards, 21 cards, and the Fool is the card of we're all on the Fool's journey.
Yeah.
We're all learning character. And so the Fool is the 0 card. Everybody's the Fool. But the 1 card is, this is learning about our ego, that our ego can create anything in this world, that we are magnificent and we are creative and we can master our environment.
Yeah.
But the other part of us is the unconscious, part of that directs our behavior. So when this card comes up, I teach to learn to trust your internal judgment. Then we learn, what's the difference between me and my mom? How would I like my mom to love me? Who am I in relationship to my mother? Then, who am I in relationship to my father? These 2 are balancing out that male and female part inside of me. Then the next lesson we learn is, who do we serve? Do we serve ourselves or do we serve the church? Do we work for ourselves? Do we think for ourselves or do we follow rules? And so this goes on and on. Then we go to the Lover's card. Okay, once we understand who we are in relationship to others, do we choose to take the mate? Do we choose to bond with another person? This one, so it just, I mean, I can keep going on through the 20 of them.
I won't take you through the 20. Keep some, actually.
Yeah.
So people can actually book some time with you actually and learn about that, because part of what you do is actually teaching other people as well, isn't it? I think, isn't that right?
That's exactly it. And when I love teaching people about tarot, because as they learn, they explore themselves. They'll go buy a tarot deck. They'll throw the cards and they'll begin to understand, oh, am I thinking that? Or is that really true? Or is that new truth?
Yeah.
And what they're doing is they're evaluating their inner state. They're trying to figure out if that's really the way they feel or not. And that's going deep. That's going down into the subconscious. So when you start doing tarot for yourself, you not only learn the cards, but you learn if it resonates with you or if it doesn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
so.
Actually,
there's no bad cards.
Yeah. Well, I've dabbled. Is that the right word? I don't like to use that word. I've been to Spiritualist Church quite a lot. But I find my sister bought me a pack of angel cards for Christmas one year randomly because she knew I was sort of getting into all of that. And I find with the angel cards, it was just a really natural affinity. Whereas my other friends were, some were using the ball and some were using the tarot cards. And then I realized, actually, certainly for me, that it wasn't the cards. The cards were like a mobile phone, if you like. And I prefer iPhone. Somebody else might prefer a Samsung. It's only the medium in between that actually you're connecting to that intuition and that other
Right.
good spiritual stuff. And whatever way you make that connection, it's a good
Right.
connection, right?
That's it. Because how many activities do we have as human beings where we sit and say, oh, is that me or is that not me?
Yeah,
Where you're really trying to figure out how you feel about this. Where you go to church, they tell you how to feel.
that's right.
You go home, they tell you how to feel. This is one of the places where you can have that inner dialogue with yourself and not get bored.
Yeah. Well, I see they're in your hand. You know what I'm going to ask you, don't you?
But oh yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to, Anthony.
How cheeky is that? Yeah, do me an interview there, Shelley. Do us a wee read.
No, I'd love to. I love doing tarot because you'll see, Anthony. You'll see how neat they turn out. Now, did you have a question? Don't tell me your question.
It's
Just
not
think of your question.
It's not so much a question. Actually, you did do a read for me on Instagram. And you won't remember it, but I remember it because it was so pertinent. I'm going through a professional change in life. So my career for the big part of most of my life, certainly for the first 20 years, was pretty much completely media centric. Then I went back to school. I've qualified as a barrister, which in the UK is like a high court lawyer. And I'm still doing my bits of media, as you can see on the side. And I think sometimes I probably... Oh, and I've recently found out I have ADHD as an adult as well, which has explained so much of my life previously. So I think at 45 years of age, I'm kind of doing what you said a minute ago, that kind of, who am I? What makes me tick? What gets me excited? What do I want to do? I've got this new set of skills. What can I use it for other than just making money? So I'm probably a bit kind of like a 45-year-old pubescent teenager in some ways. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, you're in the recreation process.
Exactly that.
We don't really, Ginsburg did research and said we don't find our path until we're in our 30s.
Yeah.
We have a test profession or a test career, and then we settle in our mid 30s.
Okay.
And then you say, okay, now what? That's a midlife crisis.
Yeah.
So being 40 and trying to see, how can I be for good is how can I be of service to myself is like, you're right on time in developmental levels. So things are going to change for you.
Okay.
It's a big foundational change. But change is good. Change is that which it may seem like it's from nowhere, but it's the way that you respond to change that makes you resilient and makes it a positive growth. This one says, it's about building character. It's about, and you've done that. You made one decision and decide that you're not there and you wanted to go back to school. You've completed that. And now what are you going to do with it? How can you use your enlightenment to expand your world?
Can I just interrupt you? I just got to tell you how bang on you are. Right. So I'm not gonna give you all of the details because then everybody but I wrote something today, okay? And within what I wrote, there were 3.5 sentences, and I'm just going to read those to you. It reminds me to be proud of the hard work, to reflect on the challenges, and to allow the transformative learning gained by the experience. When we grow, we change, and we shouldn't fear it. Now, I wrote that today, hours, lots and lots of hours before we've spoken, and you've effectively said it back to me. Oh, I love you.
Okay, now this one says you're not dead yet.
Yeah.
This one says that there's a bright future for you, regardless of how you feel, that you are, this is changing. It's transpiring. You are growing. You are living closer to your truths than you have in the past, but it's not an easy process.
No.
You know, somebody said to me, I feel so bad. I don't know this person, but I feel so bad for him. And I said, because you're compassionate. And he said, but it's hard because I feel so bad for him.
Yeah.
And I said the Buddha.
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're feeling that truth and growing from it. And that's our path. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, it really is, isn't it? Shelley, I think I could actually just talk to you forever, like never ever want to switch this conversation off. But I am conscious that you actually have a day to get on with. So I should let you do that. But just to talk about what you have available on your website, it's
agoodwitchofficial.com.
Great. And what can people can buy all sorts of things on there? So there's crystals and
we have this thing called a spell box.
Okay.
And a spell box, you know, based on neuroplasticity, if you repeat something over and over again, your internal structure changes.
Okay.
So we have a spell box that's like learning to shower yourself with loving affection. Not too many people can do that, but we've included rituals that you can do on a daily basis to learn to love yourself. You know, shower yourself with loving affections. Tell yourself you've done a good job at the end of the day. Burn your candle as a little ritual so you can get in touch with your feelings at night, and use the smell, the scent of herbs to reinforce that good feeling that comes with that good thinking. So we have spell boxes, and it's a subscription, and it's all focused on, do you accept yourself unconditionally? Are you able to edit the negative voice in your head? Because we all have it.
Yeah.
Can you shower yourself with loving affection? Do you take responsibility for your behavior based on loving yourself and accepting yourself? And then finally, who do you serve? That's how far we've gotten. And we come up with a new one every month of a way to discover who you are through the tarot. Each one of our spell boxes relates to one of the cards. And we have candles with herbs. We have crystals, but it's really teaching people how to love themselves, how to tell themselves that they're good instead of telling themselves that they're inadequate, and how to make that a habit, because neurons that fire together, wire together. That's how you learn to love yourself, by practice, you know? So those are my little boxes. We have Kumihimo kits on it. We have the Chillax packs. It's the latest in hippie technology on how to take everything you need. I have one over here. Take everything you need to for your chill time needs. I can't find one. But we also have my sculptures. I sculpt, and we sell little candles. So it's all witchy stuff.
Fabulous. Well, Shelley, thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
and don't forget our witch hats.
Oh, yes.
We have a stash sack in our witch hats for your herbs and crystals. And then it suspends over your crown chakra.
I love that. I wonder.
So do I.
I wonder, can I wear that in court? What do you think?
Isn't this great? Well, we can gear one up for you. And within each one of these, I mean, the thing that I always say is, and I write it out on a card so you remember that this is a kind universe. And the only thing real in it is love and loving relationships. And the more people understand that, the better it'll be for them, empowering themselves to build their own world.
Yeah. And why can they trust you? Because
they can trust themselves.
Because you're a
witch.
A good witch.
I'm a good witch.
Yeah.
But I learned to trust myself. That's what empowered me to be a witch.
Yeah.
I can do anything. I have created, I wanted to work for my patients. When I was a therapist, I couldn't get the insurance companies to pay for the splints or the adaptive equipment or the clothing that they need. The insurance companies wouldn't do it. So what did I do? I went into business for myself so I could give my patients what they needed.
Yeah.
I have always been able to create that which would serve other people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing now. I am in service to mankind, and it's working. People like me.
Yeah.
And I am just being the best person I can and sharing that with everybody, as I've always done my whole life.
Well, I'm bloody glad that you do. I'm super grateful that you do. And a good witch you most definitely are, Shelley. I love you to bits. I've only met you, but I already adore you. And I really, genuinely, this isn't the end of an interview, kind of keep in touch. I really hope we can keep in touch. And let me know what's going on, if you've got retreats, anything at all, really. Just keep me abreast of it.
We've got retreats coming up.
To share, let me know.
I would love that, because I lived in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
I've partied in Studio 54.
Oh, wow.
I was a youngster at 76. That means it was free love until 1983.
Yeah.
And so my life is very dynamic and very full. And I know I want to share how good it can be with everybody.
Yeah.
So, I just appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And I'll keep you posted, because we're doing trips. We're doing retreats, one to Costa Rica. Ireland really wants us to come.
Come to Ireland.
Mexico City.
Come
to Ireland. I've been there. I went to Ireland. My children were young, and they sang in a concert choir, children's concert choir. And so we landed in Dublin and went all the way down the Shannon River and back over to England and home. It was a beautiful experience, and I can't wait to come back.
Gorgeous. Well, I'm Northern Ireland, so you have to come to Northern Ireland next time, and I'll show you around.
Okay.
Love you lots. Take care.
Thank you so much.
It's a kind universe.
It is a kind universe. Bye.
Bye.
You can never be lonely if you like who you're alone with.